Do you believe in sea monsters? No? Well, I'm about to change your mind. I've gone all out to find the most random, craziest facts out there, and let me tell you, you are in for a treat. From the time a translator almost caused an international incident, to drinks made from human tears, and even some info on an ancient skull cult, things are about to get interesting. You ready? I'm Mike with List 25, and here are 25 random facts that'll break your brain. 25. Sumer's Stranger Than Fiction King List. I thought we'd start this one off with a little bit of a mystery. Let's go all the way back to the 3rd millennium BCE and a document called the Sumerian King List. You ever heard of it? This stone tablet covered in carved writings offers exactly what it promises: a complete list of Sumerian kings, their reigns, and their dynasties. Taken at face value, it's not all that exciting. It's just a list of rulers, right? Imagine sitting through a roll call of US presidents. Boring. But there's more to the story. The King List doesn't just stick to the facts about rulers. It also weaves in stories that we've come to think of as mythology. It describes massive events like the Great Flood and includes tales of figures like Gilgamesh, a legendary king who might have been more than just a storybook hero. It's never been taken seriously. But over time, the details on the tablet have raised a major question. Could these events have actually happened? If even part of it is true, it changes how we view the tablet. Were some of these kings real? And could they have been gods? Or at least seen as gods by their people? It's enough to make you rethink what's possible in ancient history. 24. When relics were worth a bite. Let's just stay in the past a little bit longer. By the 12th century, relics were serious business. Monasteries vied for fragments of saints' bones or belongings, as owning the right relic could transform a church into a major pilgrimage site. Pilgrims meant prestige, donations, and influence, things every monastery craved. And the idea that the whole was in each part only made the competition worse. According to this idea, or belief if you will, even the smallest sliver of a saint's remains contains the full power of the saint themselves. This led to rivalry so intense that monasteries actually hired professional relic thieves to acquire these holy treasures by any means possible. Taking all of that into account, it's no wonder that stories like that of Bishop Hugh of Lincoln stand out. During a visit to the Abbey of Fécamp in France, which claimed to have the hand of St. Mary Magdalene, a follower of Jesus, Bishop Hugh seemed like the ideal guest. He even respectfully leaned in to kiss the revered relic. But to everyone's dismay, the moment the monks let down their guards, Hugh decided to chomp down instead and took a chunk of the relic to go. 23. The Defenders. Folklore from around the world is full of tales of shapeshifters. But have you heard about the Defender Sharks? In Hawaiian folklore, Aumakua are ancestral spirits reincarnated as animals, and only one shark species can claim the title of Defender Shark: the tiger shark. One well-known legend tells the story of Ka'ahupao, a shark goddess who watched over the waters of Pu'uloa, now known as Pearl Harbor. She was deeply protective, ensuring that the local fishermen and their waters were safe. When man-eating sharks invaded her territory, she transformed into a massive net to block their path. Her brother, Kahiuka, stepped in to help, using his powerful tail to drive the intruders away. Another story centers on Kanekua'ana, a guardian shark who helped the people of Ewa during times of famine. She provided them with food like shrimp and oysters, saving them from starvation. To honor her, the community built temples and made offerings, hoping for her continued protection and blessings. So, when you come to think about it, it's no wonder sharks hold such a sacred place in Hawaiian culture. They're seen not as threats, but as protectors and providers, family members watching over their own. 22. When eels play vampire. It's bad news when foreign objects enter a heart, and parasites are among the worst. In 1997, scientists made a horrifying discovery inside a mako shark's heart. They found 2 snub-nosed eels measuring 8.3 and 9.4 inches, or 21 and 24 centimeters long. These weren't just any eels. Like I said, they were snub-nosed eels, and they'd been feasting on the shark's blood for who knows how long. Now, as horrifying as that sounds, it might surprise you to know that it wasn't a one-off. About 10 years later, another shark, a small-toothed sand tiger, turned up with the same problem. This time, the eels weren't just in its heart, they'd invaded its muscles and body cavity too. What made these eels even creepier is that they don't need sharks to survive. Out in the ocean, they're perfectly fine scavenging for scraps like normal eels. But every so often, they decide to play vampire, burrowing into a shark and sucking its blood. Why? Nobody's quite sure. But for a shark, this is the underwater version of a horror story. 21. A sustainable scoop on paper. Papermaking has come a long way since the good old days of using traditional wood pulp, and today we're pushing the boundaries of what paper can be made from. One of the most unusual materials in this eco-friendly evolution? Elephant dung. Surprisingly, it's become a sustainable and practical source for creating paper. It works so well because elephants have incredibly plant-heavy diets, so the dung they leave behind is packed with undigested fibers, making it a perfect candidate for recycling. The process starts with cleaning and sterilizing the droppings. Then, the dung is boiled to break down the fibers, which are combined with other non-wood materials to create a pulp. The pulp is spread, dried, and transformed into paper that's odor-free, durable, and beautifully textured. Beyond creating one-of-a-kind paper, elephant dung paper also supports conservation efforts. By adding value to these animals and their habitats, it helps fund preservation while turning waste into something truly remarkable. And literally remarkable. Get it? It's remarkable? Okay. 20. Tears on the rocks. Tears can come from all sorts of things. Sadness, joy, or the odd time we're forced to chop onions. While most of us just grab a tissue and move on, some people find tears far more fascinating. From scientists to artists and even entrepreneurs, these people study what others ignore, even when it involves something as personal or as salty as tears. And their research and ideas have inspired everything from life-saving tests to power innovations and even artisanal food and drink. I am 100% serious. One of the strangest ideas came from food art firm Bompus and Parr, which hosted a workshop in 2015 teaching participants how to brew bitters from their own tears. Dubbed an emotional infusion, the tears added a symbolic touch, though their actual flavor was overpowered by a hefty dose of alcohol and spices. To help people cry on demand, the team even set up a corner of repose and provided menthol tear sticks, like the ones actors use. Inspired partly by the lacrimatory myth, the bitters weren't for mourning. They were pitched as unconventional Christmas gifts instead. So, cheers to that, I guess? 19. Contracts meet the Walking Dead. Statistically speaking, some of you have to be in the legal profession. So tell me, have any of you ever come across a contract that made you do a double take? We all expect the usual stuff. Payment terms, deadlines, maybe a confidentiality clause. But every so often people add something downright bizarre, like the infamous zombie apocalypse clause. Yep, someone out there decided to address the undead elephant in the room. Buried in legal jargon, these clauses spell out what happens if zombies rise from the grave and throw society into chaos. They even include provisions for delayed deadlines and force majeure, that fancy legal term for act of God, in case flesh-eating ghouls disrupt operations. Take Amazon, for example. The terms for their lumberyard game engine famously include Section 57.10, which states that while the engine isn't meant for life-critical systems, that rule doesn't apply during a certified zombie apocalypse. Other companies have followed suit, adding similar clauses to cover zombie uprisings. Of course, the chances of the undead knocking on your door are as slim as a vampire getting a tan, but that's kind of the point. These clauses sprinkle humor into the typically dry world of legal documents. Besides, who says legal contracts can't be fun? 18. The USS Stein Squid Incident. So, you don't believe in sea monsters. In 1978, the USS Stein, a US Navy frigate, might have had a very different opinion. The USS Stein was on a classified mission in the Pacific Ocean when its submarine detection system suddenly went offline. Forced back into the dock for repairs, the crew discovered something shocking. The sonar system was covered in deep, 4-foot-long slashes. Even stranger, embedded in these slashes were claw-like structures that turned out to be from a squid's suction cup. Now, we know squids can get pretty big. Scientists have recorded specimens up to 43 feet or 13 meters long. But these claws suggest something far larger, potentially 3 times that size. F.G. Wood, a Navy biologist who examined the damage, even speculated it might belong to an undiscovered species. It's not unheard of for giant squids to clash with sperm whales, leaving behind scars and wounds. So, could this massive squid have mistaken the USS Stein for its natural enemy? Whatever the answer, I think it's safe to say there might be an undiscovered giant lurking somewhere in the deep. 17. Thief takes a pause mid-crime. When we turn on the news, we expect headlines that give us updates on politics, sports, or weather. But sometimes, reality is stranger than fiction. Like the time a headline read, "Burglar pauses mid-theft to pet family dog." Tell me you've seen that clip. On July 15, 2023, around 10:40 p.m., a man broke into a San Diego garage eyeing a 2019 Electra 3-speed bicycle worth $1,300. Everything seemed to be going to plan, until the family's golden retriever wandered out to investigate. Instead of bolting with the bike, the thief paused mid-robbery for some quality time with the dog. Caught on security cameras, the footage shows him putting the bike back, crouching down, and giving the pup pets and belly rubs like they were old friends. Of course, playtime had to end eventually. After his impromptu bonding session, the man resumed his crime and rode off on the stolen bike. The San Diego Police Department later posted the video on Facebook, where it went viral. Thanks to an anonymous tip, the 42-year-old thief was arrested on August 27, 2023. But I think you and I can agree that dog was irresistible. I mean, if you gotta pet a dog, you gotta pet a dog. 16. When history gets hairy. The Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. is packed with millions of artifacts, from breathtaking artwork to historical treasures and scientific specimens. It's one of the most famous museums in the world, housing so many items that most of it aren't even on display, earning it the nickname America's Attic. As you can imagine, like any attic, it's full of surprises, and some of them are a bit odd. One of the more unusual items, for example, is a framed display of locks of hair cut from America's first 14 presidents. Yep, from George Washington to Franklin Pierce, the Smithsonian has snippets from them all. And it doesn't stop at hair. The museum also has a few macabre presidential keepsakes, including items tied to their assassination days. Among them is Abraham Lincoln's top hat, worn the night he was shot by John Wilkes Booth at Ford's Theater, and they also have the cup William McKinley drank from just moments before being shot by Leon Czolgosz in 1901. Creepy. 15. The scary yucca in the corner. Houseplants can brighten up any home, but did you know they could also pose a serious health risk? If you're not careful, that decorative yucca in the corner could do more than liven up your living room. It might leave you with hearing loss. As strange as it sounds, scientists have documented an increase in serious ear injuries caused by the yucca plant's sword-like leaves. In fact, the problem has become so common that it inspired a medical article titled "Garden Terror" in the journal Clinical Otolaryngology. The study looked at yucca-related injuries between the years 2012 and 2017 and revealed that at least 28 people suffered ear canal injuries after being impaled by a yucca leaf. While some walked away with nothing more than a scratch, most weren't so lucky. 25 of those cases involved a ruptured eardrum, an injury that can cause hearing loss, vertigo, and even severe vomiting. While 21 of the patients eventually recovered, 4 experienced permanent hearing damage, even after surgery. So maybe find a houseplant that's a little less pointy. Your ears will thank you. 14. Twin lives, twin fates. The universe loves a good plot twist and often ends up delivering stories so surreal that they'd make even the best screenwriters jealous. Like all the coincidences in the lives of James Allen Lewis and James Allen Springer, identical twins separated at birth. Born in 1940, the twins were adopted by different families in Ohio. In a strange coincidence, both families named their adopted sons James, and each of them went by the nickname Jim. Thus known as Jim Lewis and Jim Springer, the brothers grew up just 45 miles apart, Lewis in Ohio and Springer in Minnesota, completely unaware of each other's existence. While Lewis knew he had a twin, Springer believed his brother had died at birth, as his mother had told him. When the two finally reunited in 1979 at 39 years old, the list of eerie parallels between their lives was astonishing. Both had married and divorced women named Linda, then remarried women named Betty. They worked in law enforcement, shared similar habits, and had childhood pets named Toy. Their firstborn sons even had identical names, James Allen and James Allen, with 2 L's. The twins' reunion became a national sensation and gave scientists the opportunity to take a better look at the ways our genes and different upbringings shape human behavior. 13. The curse on Amenhotep's tomb. The history of Egyptian writing goes back over 5,000 years. It began with the invention of hieroglyphs in 3200 BCE, a system of pictorial symbols used by the ancient Egyptian elites like the priests and scribes. Over time, Egyptian writing became more practical. When 2600 BCE came around, heretic script, a simplified cursive form of hieroglyphs, became all the rage. This script was used for everyday things like writing letters, keeping records, and documenting on papyrus. Heretic eventually gave way to Demotic script in 700 BCE, which was an even faster and simpler form of writing. All in all, hieroglyphs remained a mystery to scholars for centuries. Then, in the early 19th century, French scholar Jean-François Champollion finally cracked the code and introduced us to hieroglyphics' darker side, or curses, like the one that was left on the ancient Egyptian pharaoh Amenhotep's tomb. The inscription warned that anyone who dared to disturb the tomb would lose their wealth, drown at sea, burn in a fiery furnace, have no heirs, no tomb, no funeral, and starve to death. Even worse, their bones would perish, implying a cursed afterlife. And that's not even the complete list of punishments. Luckily for us, the curse seems to have lost its power over the centuries. 12. The Great Pasta Dump. We've all seen odd things while out for a walk. An old toothbrush here, broken appliance there. But in early May 2023, locals in Old Bridge, New Jersey found something totally unexpected. An enormous pile of pasta abandoned by a creek. Pictures of the scene showed piles of spaghetti, macaroni, and even alphabet-shaped pasta, creating a mountain of carbs by the water. The town's Department of Public Works estimated the stash at around 15 wheelbarrow loads full. The pasta looked like it had been cooked before it got dumped, but as it turned out, it was actually all uncooked. It just got dumped on during a bit of rain, so it was all very soggy. Naturally, the locals started speculating. Was it leftovers from a failed competitive eating contest? A teen hiding their uneaten dinner? The theories ran wild, but the truth was unfortunately far less dramatic. The pasta came from a house up for sale. The previous owner, a military veteran, had been clearing out his late mother's pantry and was overwhelmed by her massive stockpile of pasta. Feeling stuck, quite literally up the creek without a paddle, he decided to dispose of it all at once, and the creek was the lucky winner. 11. Lost in translation. In 1977, President Jimmy Carter's visit to Poland took an unexpected and awkward turn, all thanks to a disastrous translation. Carter opened his speech with a heartfelt statement, saying he had come to, quote, learn your opinions and understand your desires for the future. But his interpreter, Stephen Seymour, took some creative liberties, turning it into something far more risque, a declaration of wanting to get to know the Poles carnally. And it all went downhill from there. Later in the speech, Carter said, I left the United States this morning. Somehow Seymour managed to transform that into, I left the United States never to return. After his blunders, a new translator was rushed in to salvage the situation, but instead of turning things around, the replacement struggled to understand Carter's southern accent. Facing the risk of further mistakes, the translator opted to play it safe and decided to stay completely silent for the rest of the speech. The visit became a cautionary tale for interpreters everywhere and proved that even world leaders aren't immune to the chaos of mistranslation. 10. When hair rewrites history. If you thought people collecting tears were weird, wait till you hear about the people collecting hair. And strange as it may sound, the hobby of collecting hair has actually proven surprisingly useful, especially for historians armed with modern DNA analysis techniques. It's led to new insights about lineage, lifestyle, and even the mysterious deaths of famous figures, all without disturbing their graves. Hitler's mistress for years, Eva Braun, and wife for a fleeting moment, is a case in point. In 2014, a team working on a controversial British documentary tested hairs believed to have belonged to her. The strands came from a brush found in a Monogram Cosmetics case in Braun's apartment, taken by an American intelligence officer after the war. DNA analysis revealed that Braun carried a genome strongly associated with Ashkenazi Jews, a fact that would have horrified Hitler, given his obsession with racial purity. Many Ashkenazi Jews in Europe converted to Catholicism by the 19th century, which might explain why Braun wasn't aware of her ancestry. While the hairbrush was authenticated by experts, Braun's surviving relatives refused to provide DNA samples, leaving room for doubt. Still, the findings highlight an undeniable irony. 9. The deadly side of kite flying. Kites have been soaring through the skies for over 3,000 years, first taking flight in China before spreading onto other cultures. And while they're mostly used for fun today, kites have played surprisingly versatile roles throughout history. They've been used to spread propaganda, emit radio signals, ward off spirits, and even spy on enemies. But here's the catch. Kites might seem harmless on the surface, but they've caused more than their fair share of accidents. I'm talking falls, electrocutions, and even decapitations. And when it comes to stunt kites, the danger ramps up even more. These larger, more powerful kites require significant skill and can turn deadly in the wrong hands. In 2011, a 20-year-old man in Dunstable Downs, England, lost his life while flying a stunt kite. A powerful gust of wind caught his kite, pulling him into the air. He was hurled forward, lifted 40 feet or 12 meters into the sky, and then another 20 feet or 6 meters before slamming into the ground. The fall left him with broken bones, internal injuries, and a heart attack. 8. Cowboys and aliens. The American frontier was a wild and unpredictable place. Gunfights broke out in the streets, outlaws ran the towns, and saloon brawls and gambling scandals were a regular part of everyday life. For a place so untamed, the West was bound to produce its share of wild and unforgettable stories. But did you know it included stories of alien and UFO encounters? One of the most bizarre tales came from Lodi, California. In 1896, H.G. Shaw, a Civil War veteran and journalist, claimed he and a friend encountered extraterrestrials. Writing about the incident in the Lodi News Sentinel, Shaw described the aliens as 7 feet tall, very slender, with small hands, fingers without nails, and feet twice as long as normal, functioning like a monkey's feet. Shaw even theorized the aliens were inhabitants of Mars sent to Earth to abduct a human. The Lodi incident wasn't the only unsettling UFO sighting out west. In 1897, residents of Aurora, Texas, reported cigar-shaped flying saucers overhead. Just months later, the town claimed a UFO crashed and exploded in the middle of town. Skeptics blamed a meteorite, but rumors of alien visitors to the area persisted for years. 7. Dolphins and Mucus. Dolphins are cute for so many reasons. Their playful personalities, their permanent smiles, and of course, those adorable echolocations and chirps. But have you ever stopped to wonder how they actually make those sounds? Unlike humans who use our vocal cords in our throat to produce sounds, dolphins generate their vocalizations with their nasal passages. But for years, scientists couldn't figure out how dolphins hit those crazy high-pitched tones. Then in 2016, researchers used a computer simulation to recreate dolphin vocalizations. They adapted a human vocal cord model to mimic the dolphin's nasal passages, hoping to unlock the secret. At first, the simulation worked, but couldn't quite reach the right frequencies. It produced a bump sound from the tissue smacking together, but the accompanying squeak, the ring in the bump and ring sound, was missing. The missing ingredient? Mucus. Lots and lots of mucus. When scientists added mucus to the simulated nasal passages, everything clicked. Literally. So yeah, those cute dolphin sounds? Powered by snot, my friends. 6. The SnotBots. Since I'm on the topic of mucus, here's a cool one. A group of scientists dedicated to conserving whales have found a surprisingly creative way to study these ocean giants by collecting their, yeah, you guessed it, snot. In the past, gathering data about a whale's health and genetics meant using darts to take tissue samples. While effective, it was invasive. So researchers came up with a gentler solution. SnotBots. And yes, that is their real name. Equipped with petri dishes, SnotBots don't need to do much more than hover above a breaching whale. When the whale exhales through the blowhole, it releases a cloud of mucus into the air, which the SnotBots collect. It's a win-win. Whales go about their day completely unaware, and scientists get the samples they need without causing any stress to the animals. These mucus samples are invaluable for studying the health and genetics of different whale populations, including humpbacks, blue whales, and orcas. In a way, the whales are unknowingly helping the scientists to help them, all thanks to a bit of snot, clever tech, and a perfectly fitting name. 5. The mass fainting on daytime TV. The Phil Donahue Show, which aired from 1970 to 1996, broke new ground in the world of daytime talk shows by tackling socially relevant topics. But like any long-running show, it also dabbled in sensational episodes, one which took a very weird and unexpected turn. On January 21st, 1985, during a live taping about gay senior citizens, the audience started fainting. It began with one woman who collapsed while speaking into a microphone, and soon 7 people had fainted over the course of the episode. Naturally, speculation ran wild. Was it the heat in the studio combined with the frigid temperatures outside? A mysterious illness? As it turned out, the fainting wasn't a medical mystery, it was a hoax. The stunt was orchestrated by a group called Fight Against Idiotic Neurotic Television, or FAINT, led by infamous media prankster Alan Abel. The group claimed the mass fainting was their way of protesting what they saw as the poor quality of TV programming at the time. Given the state of TV today, you have to wonder, what would Abel think now? 4. From conflict to conservation. Human conflict has left the world with no shortage of abandoned forts, bases, and bunkers. These empty structures carry a sense of mystery and often attract urban explorers and researchers alike. But sometimes, it's not humans who move in, it's wildlife. Let's take the army bunkers along the Jordan River as an example. When Jordan and Israel signed a peace treaty in 1994, the bunkers were vacated, and they've remained empty ever since. Well, empty of humans, that is. Over time, 12 indigenous species of bats took over the ghost bunkers, turning them into their own personal sanctuary. From an environmental perspective, this was a win. 5 of the species are endangered or critically threatened, and the bunkers gave them a safe, undisturbed place to live. Located in a 60-mile or 96-kilometer stretch of closed military zone, the bats thrived, with their population now numbering in the thousands. Even better, their appetite for insects helps reduce the need for pesticides in nearby areas, making them vital to the local ecosystem. It's great news for the environment, but definitely not a spot I'd add to my travel bucket list. 3. The police sketch that went viral, and the story behind it. Jocelyn Park didn't expect to stumble upon a crime when she visited her favorite stand at Central Market in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. She noticed an unfamiliar man standing behind the booth with a wad of cash. Realizing that something was off, Jocelyn tried to intervene, but the man fled before she could stop him. After contacting the police, Jocelyn decided she would jot down a description of the suspect while the details were still fresh. But as a graphic designer with 2 art degrees, she thought, why not draw him instead? The result? A hilariously simple sketch that quickly went viral. Despite the ridicule, Jocelyn stood by her drawing, confident it would help catch the suspect. And she was right. A police officer recognized the sketch and matched it to someone they knew. When shown a photo lineup, Jocelyn identified the same suspect, Hong Fook Nguyen. About a week later, he was arrested. As the story spread, public perception shifted. People began to admit that, surprisingly, the sketch did bear a strong resemblance to Nguyen, and Jocelyn was vindicated. These days, Jocelyn has a fun side gig. If you send her a photo at worldsworstsketch@gmail.com, she'll create a quick sketch of you. 2. Göbekli Tepe's skull mystery. We've all heard of Göbekli Tepe, the 11,000-year-old Stone Age temple famous for its towering pillars, intricate carvings, and massive stone rings. One of the strange things about it is that despite its impressive size and design, archaeologists have found no graves or signs that people actually lived there. But that doesn't mean human remains are entirely absent. Recent discoveries suggest that rituals at Göbekli Tepe may have involved a skull cult. Yep, ceremonies where human skulls took center stage, possibly even hanging suspended during rituals. The theory comes from the discovery of 3 skull fragments dating back 7 to 10,000 years. One skull had a hole drilled into it, and all 3 bore unusual carvings made with flint tools. Archaeologists have also unearthed the statue of a beheaded human, carvings of a head being offered as a gift, stone skulls, and even a headless figure etched into one of the site's iconic pillars. Skull cults were known to exist in the region during this time, but the specific decorations and modifications at Göbekli Tepe are unlike anything seen elsewhere in the world. Curiously, while the site's carvings are artistic masterpieces, the skulls themselves were crudely altered. Some experts believe the grooves and marks were purely decorative, while others think they might have been meant to punish the dead. 1. We can all learn to echolocate. Echolocation is a skill we typically associate with bats and whales, helping them navigate their surroundings by interpreting the echoes of their own sounds. But humans can do it too. Researchers have long known that some blind people use echolocation to navigate, relying on techniques like tongue clicks or finger snaps to see the world around them without sight. But could anyone learn this skill? And how quickly? A 2021 study provided an unexpected answer. Researchers at Durham University tackled the question head-on and trained 12 blind and 14 sighted participants aged 21 to 79 in click-based echolocation. Over 20 sessions, participants learned to navigate virtual mazes and identify objects using mouth clicks. By the end, they performed almost as well as expert echolocators who'd been doing this for years. Age wasn't a barrier either. Even older participants picked it up. And 3 months later, many blind participants said their newfound use of echolocation had improved their mobility and independence. So, with a bit of training, anyone can unlock this incredible skill and see the world in a whole new way. And that's a wrap. But before I go, let me do a quick trivia question for you guys. Tell me, which company includes a zombie apocalypse clause in its contract? A. Microsoft, B. Amazon, C. Google, or D. Apple? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more wild facts and hit that bell so you never miss a moment. And if you're in the mood for a few more facts, check out our related video, 25 Facts That'll Break Reality. Trust me, you don't want to miss this one. Also, you might have noticed my voice is still terrible, not because I don't feel well. I was actually at the Buccaneers game this Sunday, cheering my butt off. Congratulations to Mike Evans to your 1,000 yard season again. So, yeah, I lost my voice cheering for the Bucks. Go Bucks.